project, which is upset over the actions of Oakland District 4 council member and presumably future mayoral candidate Janani Ramachandran, who they claim eliminated the budget for the Cultural Arts Division manager, a very popular man who some others claim had a argument and a disagreement, some type of controversy with the council member. So that led to this event in front of Oakland City Hall. And in addition to that, at the city council, this young lady making the claim you're about to hear.
As frankly, it was incredibly graphic.
Right here.
Yeah, they're all about transparency.
There we go.
I am former city staff, but first and foremost, I come here as a D1 resident and third generation Oaklander. Last week, you approved a budget that removes the Cultural Affairs Manager position, a position which brought in millions of dollars to Oakland and supported one of the only positive aspects attracting people to our city. This decision was led by a council member using right-wing Trumpian tactics to silence Oaklanders and fulfill her own political and personal agenda. Council member Ramachandran is spreading lies and using her affiliates to spread those lies, making the public believe the CAD manager position is just another useless government worker and the lack of resources being allocated are more than sufficient. But what she probably didn't tell you is this decision was personal. Her staff member and friend had a personal dispute with the former CAD manager and division, and she used that last year to do her own political performance. Personal disputes have no place in politics.
Okay, so that's one statement that helps to some degree, explain in part the controversy. However, Janani went to her Instagram account to essentially explain her side of the story. Well, let's give a listen to what she says. I haven't heard this before, so this is new.
Dollars in the arts. The only thing that my budget team's amendments cut was a staff position, a high-level management position that unfortunately cost the city $300,000 a year. So this particular manager position, which is vacant, it's not even filled now. All we did is froze that position for a period of time until our finances get in track. Now, is $3 million a lot of money for the arts? Of course not. I'm an artist. I want the arts to thrive and succeed in Oakland more than a lot of other people. I get it. But we are in a strained financial situation, and there are a lot of competing priorities. So part of our decision to cut this role that cost the city $300K per year, that's a really high salary, and fund other essential city services is just a part and parcel of budgeting. It's not about not wanting to fund the arts, and I want to do everything possible to make sure that we are responsibly using our money and producing a balanced budget for the city of Oakland. Hey, so there's been a lot of discourse out there about city council and funding for the arts. And you know what? I'm here for it. I love when the public is engaging in issues going on at city council. I do. But I'm here to set the record straight and clarify a couple of things that we did pass in our budget last week. The city council invested more than $3 million in the arts. The only thing that my budget team's amendments cut was a staff position, a high-level management position that unfortunately cost the city $300,000 a year. So this particular manager position, which is vacant, it's not even filled now.
Let me stop there because she didn't address the allegations that she has, her staff member has a personal issue with the gentleman that filled that position, and she should have. In fact, if you happen to go here, of course, this is where the event it was held I was talking about, but also the matter focuses on Roberto Bedoya, who is the cultural affairs manager, was the cultural affairs manager for the city of Oakland, where he shepherded the city's cultural plan, as you can read here. He now is out of a job, but apparently it's really for reasons that are personal. What those reasons are have not been discussed yet, and Janani didn't even touch it. It should be touched. more than touched. It should be mentioned since it's brought up by her. Now, this is the exchange that occurred on Janani's Instagram post, which she wrote, there's a lot of dialogue about what the council's budget, which we passed last week, funds or doesn't fund. Let's clear up some things about funding for the arts. And Kat chimes in with, who are you gaslighting with this? You cut the only position that actually sought and found outside funding for arts organizations. Y'all gentrify our city by selling our culture to outside folks who move here and make it so expensive. Artists can't live here, and then you repeatedly blank on us. You ignored Councilperson Brown, that's Rowena Brown, our new at-large council member, suggestion to freeze instead of cut, like literally pretending she didn't say anything. Hella disrespectful and anti-black, but not your first time in that area, Kat claims. And you had the audacity to give more money to a failed police department, and the reason we're in a deficit in the first place. Art is public safety, which actually is a good point. Kat makes a good point here. Art is public safety. Places for young people to go during the vulnerable hours of 3 to 6 p.m. gives them outlets of expression to deal with the pain and pleasure of poverty, which you continuously make worse. Art and culture is literally the heartbeat of this city. But be clear, we will have an explainer and one-pager that shows exactly what you did at the gathering tomorrow. You can't outrun the truth, Janani. And Baydays writes, to everyone complaining about arts and culture, quote, cuts, unquote, there weren't any. And note, this is not a person. This is somebody that's using a profile. It could be Janani herself, since what this writes is similar to what Janani just said, right? At any rate, it goes on to read, there weren't any. There was a cut of $300,000 for a position that hadn't been filled yet. And two, the city can't spend more revenue than it takes in. This is wrong because she said the position's empty now because it's cut. This person said that it hadn't been filled yet as if it was empty. Okay? Then it writes, goes on to complain that the city can't spend more revenue than it takes in. It already has some of the highest taxes in the country. If not this one, $300,000 position, what would you cut instead? This is a city, and these are grown-ups trying to run it in a challenging times. We want more of everything with no trade-offs is not a respectable position. And SF says, I'm glad you're here for our engagement. I have 4 simple questions for additional clarification. What exactly are you referring to as the $3 million the council invested in arts? Don't the arts and culture of Oakland deserve a high-level management position? If the top end of the salary range is $181,000, why are you referring to the salary as $300,000? Last question. Well, it's salary plus benefits. That's a common error in terms of explaining it. Last question. Are you aware the manager in the role previously brought in arts and culture funding leveraging over $1 million per year? If your budget team found $3 million to reverse some layoffs of city employees, add 4 community ambassadors to EWDD and add an extra ethics investigator, it doesn't make sense to freeze another position that generates revenue for the city at a high ratio, especially when the revenue goes to the creative sector. The Oakland Chamber of Commerce March report called an untapped resource for Oakland's economy ripe for investment. Then it gets some replies here, which are applause, and then thank you for sharing this information with a council member in the community. And then Break 510 says it would be helpful to have a video that transparently talks about what was cut from the budget. I'm glad there's been celebrations over what was saved, but we need more accessible information about what got cut out. And then this one asks, who makes $300,000 a year? Not our former cultural affairs manager. He made closer to $107,000. This is a verifiable fact. Where are you getting 300,000? Is the position frozen or eliminated? And then 3 million for arts. Yes, we love it. That is not a lot of money. It's not just about the cultural affairs manager, though this is critical because the sector is always marginalized and needs a strong voice at the table. It's about ramming through a budget without stakeholder input. Yes, you held town halls, but you also made numerous significant changes at the 11th hour without consulting the community. That's a breach of trust. With city council and the mayor mostly aligned, there's a huge opportunity to make significant moves, but you need to bring the community along with you. Otherwise, the fact that you are closely aligned becomes a liability when you make hasty moves like this. We are here to work with you. We know safety and homelessness are top issues. We know you have a tough choice to make, but to ram something through without input and celebrate it is a way to lose people who would otherwise be among your fiercest allies. Like many others in the cultural and arts space, as you know, as a self-described artist, we are all open-minded, also open-minded and forgiving. There's an opportunity to walk this back and to use it as an opportunity to bring us closer. I really hope this is the path you choose. It's what true leadership looks like, and it will go a long way toward restoring that trust and pointing us all in the same direction. Heidi says, thank you for addressing this. Another clarification, did the arts budget move dollars away from grants to fund events and permitting for events? And so we have Janani chimes in with all the information is posted on our budget page here, which was published back on May. That's not a live link, so she shouldn't use it there. She should use it as in a link in bio, whatever. I don't think I'll take up that one myself later. All right, yes, permits, specifically the budget, no granting. Then Autofill says, thank you for clarifying. This is what I was concerned about. San Francisco is spending millions on events as revitalization and tourism strategy. Oakland should double down on what it does well and not try to follow San Francisco. We always led. Events are great for building some community engagement, but shouldn't come at the expense of the artists and art organizations struggling to hang on. And it says art should be funded by outside grants and private donors. The city shouldn't be the last organization to shell out. I disagree with that. At any rate, your level of engagement alone shows real leadership. Keep it up, and thanks for the link to the budget page. Request to do a video on why we're still offering pensions to government workers in Oakland when we can't afford to pay for the ones we already committed to. Less than 15% of U.S. workers get pensions? That is not a good idea to even blurt out. Forget that. That's crazy. You get us sued. This would get us sued doing that. How do I post? Oh, whatever. Okay. All right. So there's that, and we're not done because at the July 1st council meeting, Cat Brooks stepped forward here, and well, let me enlarge this, and you can hear what
Cat
she
Brooks,
had to say.
Anti-Police Terror Project. I've got 3 cards. And I'm actually going to hit on 3 items real quick. Asset forfeiture by the OPD. First of all, that's theft. Second of all, there's money you could redirect to the CAD position. Parking fines. They hit our communities the hardest, so how are you going to balance that out so it's equitable? Because parking fines make housing insecure people homeless. And when and if you do get them extra funds from fines, there's money you can redirect into the CAD. And not Janani put a culture center for the hills on the agenda. Take that off and replace it with a motion to restore the funding you stole from the CAD. A message not for all of you, but for most of you. You are not listening to your constituents. You are moving like what we think, feel, say, want, or need does not matter. and you are moving like there's nothing we can do about it. We absolutely can and will do something. Oakland is chock full of organizers, freedom fighters, revolutionaries, concerned citizens, advocates, issue area experts, passion, fire, and commitment. In the almost 20 years I've been organizing here, we have ended the murderous rampage of the Oakland Police Department. We've made and broken politicians. We have shut down the city, run shifts in policy and practice. We are experts at interrupting business as usual until the business becomes about the business of the people. You are elected officials who get paid with our tax dollars and work for us. And just as we put you in those seats, we can and will pull you right up out of them. We are at a fork in the road. And how you all decide to move now is going to chart the course for both how the streets of Oakland and these halls of power are going to look for the next 2 to 4 years. You think I'm lying? Go watch news footage from 2009 to 2021, and you're going to see what's coming. Work with us, not against us. Defund cops, refund culture. Thank you.
Okay, so this is placed right in Janani's lap. And first of all, Kat's absolutely right. And it goes back to something I've said before about the need to revive Oakland Sharing the Vision, because it was an event that drew 2,000 people in 1991, and the residents collectively assembled a set of goals and objectives for the city, which really guided city development for the next 20 years after that. Yeah, 20 years. And so now we're arguably rudderless by comparison. But what it represented was the city actually listening to its people. And what I see now is folks like our good council member from District 4, Janani, going on social media to basically justify their position rather than hear their constituents. This is done not just by her, but also by Emily Weinstein on LinkedIn, when she's touting something that the Economic Development and Workforce Division did, when by contrast, a very stark contrast, the Economic Development Department in Hayward uses its social media to promote Hayward businesses, opening new ones, celebrating, say, a new dish at a restaurant, and so on. They use it to promote the community as if they're speaking to the community and listening to the community. Oakland doesn't do that, and it's creating problems, okay? Creating problems. Lastly, I've said this before 1,000 times, and I'll say it for 1,001. Oakland needs to use tax increment financing and use it in the way that we did before Jerry Brown killed it when he killed redevelopment. We used it to cover gaps in labor spending by allowing people who were working on projects that were redevelopment impacted, either by funding or edict, or to pay or allow that person to pay the money they're owed off that fund or funds associated with it, rather than the general fund. All right. Now, when you try to do that, you have people like, I believe Betsy's leftist, but our once assistant city manager, administrator Betsy Lake, telling everybody, well, if you use tax increment financing, you take money from the general fund. The $1 of property tax that is spent by a homeowner or a property owner, only 22% of that goes to the general fund. But if you establish a enhanced infrastructure financing zone, or the purpose of vernacular, it's called a tax increment financing zone, where you're taking the money. It's not a new tax at all. You're shifting it where the tax is collected. That tax goes to the Public Financing Authority, which we don't have in Oakland, okay? And it gets 100% of that money. So you could say to the general fund, hey, you know what? We'll give you back in certain areas of a project area. We will take that money and give you 30% back, which means the city gets an 8% return, okay? Not bad. But we don't do that. It's called a pass-through. When I worked for the redevelopment agency coming out of grad school at Berkeley in the late 80s, and that's what we did. And that was a standard practice until Jerry killed the redevelopment law, what made it dormant essentially in 2011, going all the way to California Supreme Court to basically advance what turned out to be a mistake by his own admission, which he then corrected by approving the passage of SB 628 Beal, which was the son of redevelopment, even though it was couched as a transportation funding mechanism, it was really bringing back redevelopment so that people could use tax increment financing. So my point is, we need to do that because what's happening is that, I'm tired of elected officials saying we can get a grant. Grants cannot match a math formula, all right? It is a doubling formula calculating tax increment financing. And I remember talking, I think it was Zach Unger, our councilmember Unger, and he was saying that, well, they said that we would determine using on a project by project basis. And I said, councilmember, that's not something you would determine on a project by project basis, like building by building, because it impacts an entire district. You're looking to raise billions of dollars. You're not looking for potshot money, okay? So this version of who runs the city has the wrong idea about how this works. Completely wrong. And if it got it right and listened to me, frankly, we wouldn't have these problems of basically guns and butter spending. And that's what's going on because the city's trapped itself into this very incorrect way of how to raise and spend public money. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark ZennyReport.com. Well, thanks.